Good morning, everybody. Jared and Chris. It is time for a weekly recap with the Day Traders FX group. So, hope everyone's had a wonderful week, a good, exciting week. We've had quite a bit of activity this week, right, Chris? We've been in and out of the market about just a bunch of times, and we found some pretty great trades, and we have some trades we're going to carry over into next week, and we've been busy in the group this week.
Yeah, very active week. You can see here on our little note list that we have out for members, we had some really quick profits early in the week. Aussie Swiss was 70 pips, dollar CAD was 50 to 70 pips that ended up running close to 150 to 200 pips, and then we kind of got in some trades. We ended up breaking even or closing out early on the pound Aussie. Euro Aussie, we're working through that one just a little bit with some small trades. Aussie Swiss working through that one as well after being profitable on one trade. Locked in some pippies on that Euro CAD, which was nice. Had a bit of a sloppy Super Thursday. Pound US dollar did something pretty nasty. We'll talk about that one briefly. But we have more than made up for that trade with a beautiful and larger term breakout on this euro dollar. So, Jared, you tell me what charts you'd like to go through, and let's get cracking.
Let's have a look at the euro dollar first. So euro dollar is the money train here. We've been talking about euro dollar for a long time. I think a lot of people have wondered why I've even ever been talking about the euro dollar, because it's been in a huge channel for a year. One solid year it's been in a sideways channel. But there's been some pretty excellent opportunities within this channel. I've sold breaks down, I've bought breaks up. It's had some good movement within this channel. It's a 1,000 pip channel, so it's not that small. And so once again, what we're doing here is getting in on this, see that movement starting, through that 200 moving average and trend line and all that. One thing that I find interesting, the specifics of the trades are, we got in on a breakout, we're trading from the top of a year-long channel. That's what's pretty interesting. That's like a good situation to be in. Sold off the top of a channel, and we have a potential of, hypothetically, this trade could run down hundreds and hundreds of pips, and it could run down 1,000 pips. It could just test the bottom of that channel once again. We're initially looking for a couple hundred pips on this first run. We're 12. We're looking for 110, and we may even see 108 sooner than later as well. So these are all kind of good possibilities here. And something interesting that I have found on dollar pairs is the first week in May can oftentimes be highs or lows for a couple of months. And so we've had a nice high there the first week of May, about the 2nd or 3rd of May, spiked up, and it's just been coming down since, and we're breaking trend lines, we're breaking price patterns. Euro dollar looks interesting, so if anybody is on board with this euro dollar, let's hang on to this. Let's see if we can get a bearish push down into these lower levels, a few hundred pips lower. And I like it. I think there's some good activity going on with this euro dollar right now. I have been kind of on the fence with my dollar bear, my dollar bull, and as we've been watching the dollar index, it did exactly the opposite of what the euro dollar has done. It had a massive support level. Euro dollar had a massive resistance level. It hit, it bounced, and it is turning with the quickness. So we had a nice little dip there, a couple nice dips, and those lows held very nicely, and you can see that dollar index heading right back up, and the euro dollar is following suit and just heading towards that length in a big way. So that's what I'm looking for on euro dollar for the moment. So that's kind of where we're taking this thing, and we'll see if we can get a nice fantastic movement. So far so good there. Quick little peek. Let's flip over to the dollar CAD chart. We have got that really nice breakout, that nice big trend line and that nice big channel that has broken out and made a pretty excellent move there. Retracement, some pullback, and a further retest of that channel. Or is this just going to consolidate, pull back, and start to break some descending trend lines? And so far, we had a nice little trend line in there. It's breaking higher, moving higher, looking good on that side of things. And likewise, we're just going to kind of keep an eye on that. We're going to look for some further retracement going into the week. Maybe we going into next week, maybe we test that trend line, or maybe we continue to consolidate and break higher. So dollar CAD is interesting. We're liking this one, and there should be some good pips in the works from this guy. We've taken out some pivots. It's just kind of moving along very nicely. We're going to keep a real close eye on oil. We're going to keep a really close eye on the dollar index as well, because these two things are going to help us really identify where that dollar strength and CAD strength or weakness is ultimately going to come from. So we have a nice little double top there on oil, right up at about that, just around that $47 mark. So we start getting some moves above that $47 mark on oil, and we have got some big activity to look for going into next week, and that could cause some bigger retracement on like the dollar CAD and could cause some of the other dollar pairs to pull back. But if this starts to turn big time, if oil, for example, were to double top there and say break out of this trend line and continue lower like that, we could see a massive rally in dollar pairs, and we could see a huge move higher on things such as the dollar CAD and a big move lower on euro dollar. So definitely not out of the question. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, so euro dollar is looking pretty nice. We've had some questions from the members. Are we taking profit now, or what are we doing with our euro dollar? Since we got in at 13.50 and we have such a nice open spot for this thing to keep running, what we're more interested in is we're going to have a new weekly pivot up for grabs. I think that would be a nice area to start looking for. Just a little bit of poke at price and see if we get a pullback, but that would be a good re-entry area. Or I know Jared likes to look at these bear flags, and given the pretty sharp sell-off, if we just consolidate a little bit, we might see some of this action where we can get into some trades that sell these resistance levels, or we can just simply add on a breakout and go after that 1200 level. So between 1200 and 1.10, we've got some pretty good targets on the euro dollar, and I think they can get there pretty quickly. So this one's lining up really nicely, and so despite the messiness that the pound dollar gave us yesterday, this is more than made up for it. So overall, we've still had a really good week. I know that what I'm going to talk about briefly is a couple of these trades we're going to carry through on the weekend. Here is one of them. This is the Aussie Swiss franc. So what I'm looking at as far as the technicals, here is a weekly pivot. Here is another weekly pivot. We took a nice trade for about 70 plus pips early in the week. You can see that it just made a stab at that weekly pivot but failed, and still left this pivot up for grabs. And so since we have fallen, just kind of looking at, do we have a little bit more of a wedge? Do we have another trend line break? And so we're going to have a new weekly pivot on Sunday to Monday's open. And so what I'm looking for, and the reason we're holding this trade is if it falls down a little bit lower, I'm interested in adding to that position, using this longer term trend line for a bounce and a movement back up towards the third weekly pivot. And so what we may end up doing is the little trade that we took in here, if it turns out to be break even, fine. But if this one that we take again is profitable, then that's what we want to look at doing next week. So obviously anybody that's joining us for a trial or joining us for the first time, or members, will be with us on Monday for our weekly watch list. And this is on the weekly watch list since we are carrying it over through the weekend. Again, not a ton of volatility on this one, but we started small. We're looking to turn this profitable. What I like is just getting price on the right-hand side. We've had a peak, we've had another peak, we've tested this little aggressive trend line. We're not closing on the right side of it just quite yet, but once we do, looking much better for that third weekly pivot, and getting this trade back where it needs to be as far as profit's concerned. And then Euro Aussie, similar look. So it's kind of like diving into the same trade. One is a buy trade on the Aussie Swiss, the other is a sell trade on this Euro Aussie. But what I'm liking right now is this 5,600 level is holding pretty firmly as far as this cap, and maybe it's short term. But we have broken some trend lines. We are starting to curl over, and again, we start to just bring back some of this retracement after about a 1,200 pip rally on the Euro Aussie with virtually no pullback. We have a combination of two consecutive weekly pivots. There's a previous low at 5,400. We're starting to hold 5,600 highs. So I think combination of 5,400 low, this weekly pivot, this 200 EMA, and we're going to have another weekly pivot printing on Sunday and Monday. So if we consider adding to this position, if it goes any higher, I'm looking at that weekly pivot. If it comes down to this weekly pivot and we're break even on the positions, or just up a few dollars or a few pips, we might just close it out to protect it, mitigate the risk, and then go find something bigger and better, or just focus on that euro dollar, since that one is nicely cooperating for us. So Euro Aussie, Aussie Swiss, I like those trades. I think they're going to be just fine for us. Aussie New Zealand, we had a long discussion on this one today. And we are in a pretty critical area for this Aussie New Zealand trade. It's a big bullish pattern on a weekly chart, on a daily chart. We have all these nice pivot levels that are really, lining up nicely for this Aussie to kind of make some movement back to the upside. But it's just flirting with these kind of psychological levels and these potential breaking points of this pair, and this really a breaking point of the pattern. So anyway, we've noted those areas, and we're watching to see, this orange line is actually a yearly pivot right around 107. If this holds and we can stabilize some of these lows on the Aussie Kiwi, then I think we're going to be okay for this thing to return back up to these 109 highs and this pivot cluster at 110. And that would be ideal, and that would be nice and fun, and everybody can enjoy just wiping their brow and being back on the positive side with this trade. But if it gets a little messier and it just starts to work its way lower, then there is a point where we're going to start, being objective again, looking at this trade and saying, okay, it's not cooperating, it's broken some of the major levels of this pattern, and we will most likely take a bit of a loss on that one. It should be all manageable, but there's plenty of other good trades up for grabs. And when this trade is ready, or when we do find another pattern, it's totally tradable, and this little scaling, a little working will be a thing of the past. We'll clearly work through it and be net positive at the end of the day. So Aussie Swiss still looking fine. Euro Aussie looking fine. They're gonna plan on those next week for those weekly pivots. Aussie New Zealand's on the watch list. Pound dollar. This one gets our insert fart noise for the week, because this one was a really messy trade. Really messy trade. We had pound news with inflation report, asset purchase facility, rate decision, and they held everything pretty much as expected, which was interpreted as we've got some movement to the upside, and pound pairs were moving and shaking, and then by the end of the day they just imploded and retraced all of the move. And so we ended up taking a small loss on this pound dollar. But again, we've more than made up for that for where our euro dollar is currently, and everybody's back in black for the week, and that's all good stuff. As far as the other pound crosses, pound Swiss, I'm looking at this from a larger perspective. We did have some really good trades going on the pound Swiss. We were up a few hundred pips around this 3,900 region. I'm looking to buy some retests at 3,800, and I have a pending order sitting at 3,755. This could be working its way into a much bigger head and shoulders pattern, which would be bullish or an inverse head and shoulders, and that's going to take time to play out, but we'll be watching that really carefully. Other pound crosses are a bit messy, so I think going into next week, a lot of our attention, a lot of our focus is going to be, managing some good profits on this euro dollar, and adding to this position. We get some, bear flag action. We get some little pullbacks. We'll be adding to that position to head down lower. The Aussie Swiss and the Euro Aussie, hopefully if we see this sustainment of euro weakness and dollar strength, of course, but if euro weakness continues, then those pairs will be just fine. And yeah, as Jared pointed out, the DXY is making this pretty impressive recovery. We have broken, this aggressive trend line. What I've got here noted is a couple chart alarms. If we take out this high around 95.16, then I'm looking for this low to be solidified. There would be a low to high, any type of pullback, and we look at dollar strength coming in a big way. So again, the tricky gauge, the only way this would be, I think, a difficult trade is based on this oil and gold correlation, because if oil proceeds to close above $47, and again, you can see that we tested it yesterday. We had a live alert while we were in our session, and we broke a high, but you can see it did not close above it. So right now oil is still kind of iffy, and if it closes above it, then we clearly have room to run up towards the $50+ mark. But this can get really trendy to a good potential slide again in oil if we break out of this little channel, clear out some of these lows, and we'll see what happens. But I think that either way, the dollar is going to be a pretty decent beneficiary for whatever is in store. Right now, the dollar index is posturing for some really nice continuation, and that euro dollar looks pretty good. The pound dollar is going to be pretty interesting going into next week to see if it holds or continues to collapse. So I think right now our attention is shifting onto the dollar, and we're going to try to focus on some really clean setups and profit management, certainly on that euro dollar and whatever else we can get our little fingers on. So again, looking forward to another great week. The members have been very active. Again, if you join us for the first time, we have free trials. We have our webinar links every morning. We're live Monday through Friday. The social chat is taking off. We've got all sorts of good stuff happening. So, Jared, any comment on this, or any comment to wrap up the week?
Nope, it's been another good week of just being at the markets every single day at the same time, learning a few techniques and how we trade and what we do. And tracking some of these trades. We've had, again, we'll have some trades that'll carry over into next week. We've had some good profitable trades this week. We had a stop out, and I feel like that's one thing to remember. We're definitely not proposing here that come trade with us and you'll never lose a single penny ever. But so far we've been more profitable every week than not, and so and we've had some sort of stop out just about every single week. I think a trade usually we get about one bad trade a week that just has to take a stop out, and so last week I think we had the euro yen. This week the pound dollar. We're just getting we'll lose a trade here and there, but we've got some really good setups that tend to play out really well, and we have been profitable week after week, and that's been good. The member base is getting strong, and the group is very active, and our sessions, Monday through Friday, have become a staple for a lot of these members, and for ourselves included. So it's been excellent, and we'd love to have you guys come by Day Traders FX, get a free trial to the group. You can join our live sessions, you can be in the chat, you can get the trade alerts, you can get everything by just going to daytradersfx.com and having a look. The site is up and running. There's a few new little details that are coming as we go, but if you kind of scroll through it, see what we're all about, see what we do, and how things work, you can get that free trial. You can see our membership levels and all of the details right there. So stop by, and again, on the free trials, there's no obligation. Jump in, give us a test drive, see what you think. If it's not what you were looking for, no hard feelings. But if it is, and it's something that so far our members have had very positive experiences and have really learned some good things, and together as a group, we're just profitable. We're making some good trades. We're finding some good areas to trade in, and we're having a good time doing it. So we'd love to see you with us. And otherwise, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging around with us this week. There's lots of new exciting things coming, and it's been another good week, and we'll plan on being back at it next week.
Sounds good. Jared, you have a good weekend. I will chat with you soon, brother. And
you as well,
else,
Chris. Over and out. Take care, everybody.
Yep, bye-bye.